Hello, everyone. Welcome to CraftQuest on Call. This is number 25. So we are a quarter of a century old. I think it's taken us about a year or so to get to 25. And we have a good episode lined up for you today on the live stream. We're going to talk about Twig global variables. We are going to cover some features that are coming up in Craft 3.7, which were just released. A beta was released earlier this week. And we have some questions from you that we can answer. If you have any questions during the live stream, you can drop those in the chat. And let's see. Oh, we have a new installment of Tyler's tips. So Tyler has a good tip for Chrome as usual. So I want to introduce my co-host, the Grand Poobah of plugin development, the master of midday hikes, the sire of SEO, the writer of 5-minute blog posts, the king of country living, and the singer of psalms of salted gummy bears. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, Andrew Welch. Hello, Andrew. How are you doing today?
Wow, you actually put some work in on that one. I give you credit to that.
I
sat there
with my iPad and wrote some of those out before the
live stream. You really worked it. So thank you for that intro. Yeah, and before we get serious, if no one saw it, Tyler, a lot of his tips have been oriented on Chrome, and I think we should let the audience in on this, Ryan. Okay. So the reason a lot of his tips are oriented on Chrome is that he has a Chromebook, and he is currently banned from using the family iMac due to extended use, shall we say, of it. But he's going to be getting his privileges back. So just putting it out there that the Tyler's tips we may be getting something other than Chrome tips once he has become unbanned from that. Okay. And I wanted to mention something else about Tyler is that he's a wonderful kid, but he's a little impulsive. So what he was doing was he was stealing candy from our other son, these gummy bears that were coated in sugar. So what we did is we kind of conspired, and this is after many, many times of asking him not to and respect other people and all this kind of stuff. We went and bought regular gummy bears. We soaked them in water, and then we dumped a whole shit ton of salt on them all over the place. And then we just put them in the closet, and we're like, okay, if he doesn't touch them, if he respects what he's supposed to do, he'll be fine. But of course he did not. And I caught it on video, and he put that gummy bear in his mouth, and man, it was pretty hilarious.
Is that still up on Twitter?
Yeah, it's up on Imager. It actually went viral on Imager, so it's up there. It's pretty funny. Yeah. And one other thing before we get into it, I don't want to bore everyone, but I got something here, Ryan, that I think is going to make you jealous.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is that those aren't the Apple AirPod Pros, are they?
No.
Because they come in a different case. What is that?
This is electronic. I know you still can't really see what it is. I'll show you. It's going to make you jealous. Look at this. See this?
Is that a shaver? Wow. Oh, no, we don't need to see this. Good Lord. Oh,
you don't want to see personal grooming?
No. Okay, so does it shave to a shine, or is it, I don't actually know if you're actually bald or if you'd shave it to a shine, or is it a little bit of both?
There are some rough patches, but no, I'm still having to shave it down. Yeah.
Because I shave, I shave my head every Sunday. Today, as we record this, is Thursday, so I'm kind of getting a little on the stubborn side. But I just do shaggy. The electric razor, no guard.
Yeah. So we'll call you Shaggy. How about that?
Shaggy. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, so is that your main shaving device for your head? That thing?
I just got it. I usually actually use a razor. I usually just take a razor to it and just do it like that. Yeah. I got this for the barn so that I wouldn't be shaggy when I was on camera because I'm responsible. And I want to make sure that
I haven't even shaved in a year, and it's starting to show.
You haven't shaved.
But people didn't come here to see you shave your head, though.
I'm going to put that link to Tyler in the chat. You're welcome to link to it. Tyler's eating the salty gummy bears. You're welcome to link to it in the show notes if you want, but if you don't want to, I totally get it. In any event. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So it's in the chat, the live stream chat now.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's jump in, Andrew. So last time we had a special episode where I don't think we actually really answered any questions, but we talked about learning, how to learn, the struggles of learning. And I got a lot of good feedback about it. We had a couple like kind of mini follow-up conversations about it as well. Anything that you wanted to chime in on following up on that? The only thing I wanted to say is that I've been thinking about it the last 2 weeks because as I have been working on different things where I'm learning new things, like last night I was working on a plugin where I'm working with an API that's new to me, and it was really pissing me off for a while because it didn't make sense. But eventually, I was just kind of embracing the struggle and realizing that A, it shouldn't be easy because typically things that are worth doing aren't easy. And B, like that struggle is part of the process, and you have to kind of just enjoy it. So anyway, I thought it was a good episode. Go ahead.
Yeah, I enjoyed it too. We did take a couple of questions from the chat, but you're right. It was mostly a presentational thing. The other thing I think about is whenever I'm like, this doesn't make any sense, I know that it always does make sense. Mm-hmm. It's just that I don't have the full picture. You know what I mean? Like there has never been a time that I've gotten to the end and figured something out and I haven't been, oh, that makes sense now. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you just have to keep in mind that as frustrating and it may seem to make no sense whatsoever, it's a computer, so it's not a person, so it's going to be making sense. All it means when you don't understand the problem or you're feeling lost is that you don't have enough information. That's all it is.
Right. Really I like to tell people there's no mysteries in code, right? Like it's all there. Like you just have to figure out what the steps are.
And anyway. the other thing we're pursuant to that you and I were also talking about briefly is that we mentioned that you should be uncomfortable and you should be at that spot where you don't know things. Mm-hmm. And I think, some people feel that they should just know everything. They should be able to just sit down and just start working. But understand that if you do that, you're essentially something that can be automated. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like the skills that can be roboticized in a way, right? That's no good for job security or for things like, website generators or that type of thing. So just keep in mind that if you ever sit down and you know absolutely everything, you could be replaced by a robot in that case, Right.
Or it could be signals for other things. I have definitely seen people late in their careers, like much older than you or I, or you or me, then that kind of got stagnant and were in like the first round of layoffs to be replaced and things like that because they weren't sort of up to date on skills and stuff.
So from the chat, Carbon Joe has a few things to say. Carbon Records Joe. I'm just calling Carbon Joe. I don't shorten it. Yeah, Carbon Joe. First of all, he said free Tyler, which is hilarious. That's so funny. If it ends up being a free Tyler movement.
We need to give a PO box where they can send postcards to Tyler of encouragement.
I'm not gonna do that. It'll go to his head. And the other thing he's saying is he thinks my audio level is louder than yours, which is weird because I haven't changed anything, but I just wanted to note it for you just in case there's anything you needed to do. Yeah.
Well, I'm always happy to turn you down. I do look a little low today. Hang on one second.
Oh my God.
All right. I noticed that I should be louder now. And I noticed that when I was recording so we pre-recorded the Tyler's tip this time again, that my audio was distorting a little bit.
But anyway. Oh, weird.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you, Joe. Andrew says, try to avoid being a commodity. There you go. That's right. That's exactly right. All right. So hopefully we fix the audio. And there we go. All right, Andrew, first question. You ready?
Born ready, man.
All right, Joe, don't worry about nitpicking. It's like, it's all good. Here we go. First question is, from Anonymous. I'm thinking of taking the next step from HTML, CSS, Twig, Craft to some tooling. So this is this was submitted in response to our learning episode last time, and this person wants to expand into trying something new. Obviously, they're comfortable with all those 4 items prior, so they've looked at Webpack, Vite, and I think a pretty standard reaction is this all seems overwhelming. Where does one start? If you wanted to look at some tooling, and I guess my initial thing would be like, what problem are you trying to solve? But Andrew, what's your feedback? You're a champion of the build tools. What's your feedback on this?
Well, my feedback is I'm annoyed because you just took my response. I mean, so it really should be needs-based, right? Like, we shouldn't be just like, oh, I think I want to adopt this build system, right? So it should first be like, well, what are you doing? Like, what are you trying to accomplish? What do you want to get out of it? And that would then help me answer what you should be end up doing. I would say that for the first timer, I don't know that you want to get into Webpack, probably.
Okay.
If you've never done any kind of front end tooling before, not because you can't, because I'm a firm believer that you can do anything. It's just a matter of putting the effort in to learn it and do it. But from a benefit reward, I'm not sure that it's there if you're just coming from doing HTML, CSS, Twig, and Craft. So let's assume that what this person wants in doing this is a way to bundle everything up and have a nice local dev experience where they'll get the nice hot module replacement and reloading and that kind of stuff, because that's usually the gain that people go for off the bat. Is they're like, well, I usually just manually download the JavaScript file and link to it and away we go. So I think the real benefit you'll see instantly is if you'll get the hot module replacement, so that you can just edit stuff, CSS, Twig, HTML, JavaScript, and it will reload automatically in the browser. And the other real benefit I think you'll get is you'll start using the NPM ecosystem, so that when it comes time to update stuff, you don't have to either manually download the script or do what most people do, never update it. Right. I mean, it's true. That's the way it used to work, right? People used to download the JavaScript from somewhere. They'd stick it on a site and they'd never upload it, never upgrade it. It would just sit there. And that's not wonderful from a security point of view. That's not a great thing to do. So those are the 2 things that I think you'll get off the bat. And for those 2 things, I think that using something like Vite would be the way to go. Just there's less setup, and it's going to just work a lot more easily. And you're also just doing kind of a baseline case in terms of what you want out of it. And I think it would be more than capable of doing that. There is some other situations where Webpack might be the better choice. But I mean, from what you're saying, it sounds like something like Vite, or potentially something like Laravel Mix, which is a layer on top of Webpack. Although I think that has its own caveats as well. I would prefer to just go straight to Vite, to be honest.
Although people do find, from what I understand, Laravel Mix to be a little bit easier, a little more approachable, because it's kind of set
easier than what?
Just rolling your own Webpack.
Oh, for sure, it's easier than rolling your own Webpack. But what I mean is, it's a layer on top of Webpack, so you're depending on them generating the right thing. You're also depending on them to make sure you've got the latest version of whatever. And once you get out of the automatic stuff, you're right back into configuring Webpack and trying to get some other stuff. Like, I know Andrea's had a whole lot of fun getting critical CSS working in Mix and that kind of thing.
Well, I was going to bring that up with, so hot module replacement, critical CSS, kind of list the things that you'd want to do, that you'd want to get out of like a Vite setup, and then just tackle those things.
Yes.
Don't have like some big grand plans. Just do a few. The same thing you would do anything like new. Have some small stepping stones, and then you can learn along the way. Otherwise, you'll get overwhelmed.
Well, let's put it this way. If you're just getting into it now, if you're coming from HTML, CSS, Twig, Craft, etc., if you're just getting into it now, it's almost like someone who's just getting into HTML now. And you would tell them, just start using Flexbox. Like, just don't learn floats. Don't learn all of that nonsense that you clear fix and all that crap, like just go for the float. Or sorry, oh my God, not go for the float. Go for the flex box, go for grid, like just go straight to it. And Vite is kind of up there with that.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Sorry I stole your answer, but obviously it was the right one.
So Trikushian says, haven't heard of front-end tooling. So front-end tooling is just whatever stuff you need to build your front-end assets. So your JavaScript, your CSS, potentially your HTML, that type of thing. And a lot of people have build systems, front-end tooling, either Webpack or used to have Gulp or Grunt or any number of other things. And Vite is another one of those.
Right. And Carbon Joe said that he started with just basic Sass compiling and then watchers and then moved on to more complex processes from there. But I think you can be like, I'm not a Vite expert at all. It's still on my to-do list, but I think you can probably start pretty basic in Vite, right?
Yeah. I mean, you can just get a config up and running, and it actually is a much simpler model. And it's because they're leveraging the modern platform.
Mm-hmm. All right. Excellent. So there was a question that you sent me about images in Nux. Did you want to do that one?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. I don't have it up though. Hang on a second. Here it is. Don't mind me. I'm a professional. Let's see.
Yeah, so Trikushian says, oh, I use Gulp. Well, there's your front-end tooling, right?
Yep.
So that's what it is.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's just that we should have talked about that last time about the learning the language, learning how people refer to things. I think sometimes the names that people give things makes everything more confusing, especially I don't want to throw the JavaScript world under the bus, but naming stuff there is just kind of weird. Nuxt.
What, just because the testing frameworks are Jest, Chai, and Mocha? I mean, what?
Yeah, it's just all I just think it can be kind of confusing. It feels like if you ever gone to met with a group of people, maybe it's at a job or in an industry or some other kind of community gathering, and everybody's talking in this same using the same vocabulary, but something that's not, you feel like you're just you're missing something. I don't understand.
Yeah.
I don't understand what they're talking about. I don't understand these words. Sometimes it can feel like that to people.
You ever hung out with a bunch of lawyers? It's worse. Trust me. It's way worse. Or doctors too. That's another one. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Or probably hanging out with a group of, web developers. I mean, maybe it's what my wife's experience living with me is.
Yeah, but why would you want to do that anyway? Don't hang out with those people.
But you're talking about all sorts of things that are just normal to me or to us that would be weird to most people.
Yeah.
All right. Let's do this one here. So this is from Stack Exchange.
That is your brand health.
I'm sorry?
You're sharing your brand health? I don't even know what you have on the screen here.
Oh, sorry. Hang on one second.
That's okay.
There we are.
There we go. Okay. So we don't even need to read the whole thing. I can summarize it for you. So Next.js has an image component, and also Nuxt.js has an image component. These are both meta frameworks for building front-end sites. One uses Vue, the other uses React. The basic idea is they have these components that make it easier for you to make a responsive image, for instance. Mm-hmm. And this person is asking, well, how can I use Craft as a provider for this particular thing? And the reason I wanted to mention it, if you scroll down, someone provided a pretty long answer to this and a pretty in-depth answer. And you might say, well, okay, someone provided an answer and they even gave you code. Why are you even bothering
why are we talking about this? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They even gave you code. So the reason why I wanted to talk about it is they're essentially turning Craft into a provider here. And if you scroll up to the top where they're actually asking the question, mm-hmm. they want to do something like pass in a width and a height and get back an image. And they want to create something in Craft that would then return that image to them. Mm-hmm. And the reason I wanted to mention it real quick is that I'm not sure that this is the right approach. And the reason I say that is essentially you're turning Craft into the provider of the image transform. And I don't know if you want to do that. It depends on how and when you're building it. If you're building a static site, then that means it's going to put a bunch of load on your CMS whenever you're building it. If it's a universal, so it actually runs on the server, then in runtime, it's going to be putting load on Craft to pull this thing in. The other thing is you don't get the benefit of the image optimizers that are built into some of these image components. They use Sharp, and they also use things like JPEG Optim and a bunch of other stuff that if you essentially make Craft the provider of this image, it's not going to run any of those things on it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So you might want to figure out a way where you can pull the image from Craft, but have the component actually do the work of doing the transform and then subsequently doing the optimization and all that kind of stuff. I'm just saying it might potentially be a better way to do it. You know?
Okay.
And Andrea is saying, explain next. I think I explained it, but it's basically a framework that you would use if you use React to build web pages. And it lets you do things very similar to Nuxt, which is for, as you were saying about this naming thing, which is for Vue. And it kind of lets you just have a folder structure where you can put components and you can have layout components. And it kind of is like having Twig, where you've got different files and you've got layouts, and it does routing and it does a bunch of other stuff for you. But people use it to then generate static sites, for instance, that type of thing.
Yep.
But I just wanted to mention that question real quick, because while a thorough answer was provided, I'm not sure that it is the right way you would want to approach it. Again, depending on what you're doing, because it's turning Craft into the thing that does the image transforms, whereas you might want it to be that Craft is just the provider of the image, and then the transforms and the optimizations and all that kind of stuff is done via the component.
Right. All right. It's kind of funny. I had a sub bullet here in my list that said, question about images with next, and then a question for Andrew. What is next? So thank you, Andrea, for answering that or asking that. Okay. Excellent. Let's see. All right. I think it's time for you to be visited by your son here. You ready?
Oh my goodness, I'm ready.
All right.
He is dutifully in school right now. Anyone who's thinking about calling CPS, no, he's not here live. He is in school. We're responsible. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, he recorded this the other day after school, and then he went right and did his homework, I'm sure, right?
Yeah. That's good.
All right. So it's time for another edition of Tyler's Tips. Here we go. All right, we are here for another edition of Tyler's Tips, and joining me is friend of the show, the best co-host I've ever had. Hello, Tyler. How are you?
Good.
What do you got for us today?
I'm Tyler from Tyler's Tips. Today I'll be showing you how to copy a text from a web page, and when someone goes to the web page, it takes them to it and highlights it.
Oh, cool. I've seen this feature before. So this is something we can do in Chrome?
Yeah.
All right. Are you ready to show me?
Yeah.
Okay, let me pull up my desktop. All right, here I am. I got Chrome open on one of the finest sites on the internet right here. So what should I do? Go ahead and step me through everything.
Go in the URL bar and write chrome://flags.
Okay, flags. All right.
And write copy link.
To text right here?
Yeah, copy link to text.
Okay.
And it's on Mac, Windows, and Linux, and Chrome OS.
Okay.
And it's something different on iOS and Android.
Okay.
I forgot. Press default.
Does it need to be on
Enable.
default? Okay.
If you click default and click enable.
Enabled.
and then relaunch Chrome.
Okay, we're back. So it looks like it's enabled.
Yeah. How about you going to like my dad's website? Oh, not
I
yours.
support that.
Okay.
I don't know your dad's website, so we'll just go to CraftQuest. Never heard of what your dad does.
Oh,
How dare you!
oh yeah, it's also called NY Studios 107, dude. That's what.
NY
Just go to
Studio
the-
107. All right, we'll go to your dad's website. Hang on, let's see. Get him some traffic, much needed traffic.
You went to it.
All right, so we'll go to one of his
You
articles.
already went to a website. It showed like you already been there.
Busted.
I feel like I'm getting ganged up on here. All right, so we're at one of your dad's. It was one of Andrew's articles. So what do I do now?
If you scroll like down,
Mm-hmm.
and also what's cool with this is it works with text, and if it's like here it will scroll down for you,
Oh, okay, so do I just highlight this then?
and then right click on the text,
Uh-huh.
and then press copy link to highlight, and then make a new tab, and then Control V. And then
Okay, so it's got a little bit of extra here in the URL.
Mhm.
Boom! Look at that.
Mhm.
So what do you think this can be useful for?
Maybe if you like it's like if you wanna like in YouTube,
Mhm.
there's a chapter like you can press,
Right.
and instead of that, it's basically like a web page YouTube for that, and you can use it if they didn't enable this.
Yeah.
So if you're like, how about if you go to fall, and then when you get to fall, then it will show the text. You don't have to do fall anymore. You can just copy it, and then when people go to the URL,
Right.
they don't have to go to fall. They can just it'll automatically scroll them down.
It brings them right to it. And it only works in Chrome, is that right? Like if it won't work in Safari?
Try it. I don't actually.
I don't think it will. Let's see.
No,
No. Okay.
Safari.
But that makes sense though. But this is pretty cool. I've seen this in is it in Google searches? I think I've seen it before. Like if I search for text
Yeah.
and they find it and Google has it in the index page, it'll highlight that and bring it right to me as well sometimes.
Yeah.
Um,
And if you stop selecting it, it will just go back to the normal URL.
yeah. So one thing I like about this is especially on these articles from your dad's website, which are kind of like a Tolstoy novel, is that I can link somebody directly to it rather than making them scroll through a 40,000 word 5-minute read.
Well, you know what I like about this?
Look at that. I like
You know
that.
what I like about this, Ryan?
What's
What I
that?
like about this is that when you don't follow one of the steps, I can send it directly to you and it will be highlighted and you'll scroll right to it and I'll be like, here, do this.
So, in all seriousness, Andrew, is that sometimes if you're helping someone like in an online forum like Stack Exchange or in a chat and you need to give them specific, like a direct link to a piece of instructions, this is super helpful. I mean, you can do this even in the craft docs. I mean, I know they have, so typically what people do is they have these like in-page links like this here. But
Yep.
sometimes you might just want to bring them to maybe this. So I can just copy link to highlight
And
and then
if it's
bam, I say, check that out right there.
Yeah, and
Right.
it actually like not like anything else when you like usually highlight it. It had sometimes on some website it has like a custom highlighter,
Yeah.
and like this actually stands out like on all websites.
Yep. Yeah. Some people do that. Yeah. In the actual website itself, no, without using Chrome.
One thing I want to mention here, Ryan, is that while you need to enable this feature to create the links, anyone can consume them, assuming if they're using Chrome, it will just work. They don't have to enable the feature flag to get the highlighting and the scroll to.
Okay.
If
So
they're using something else that doesn't support it, then it's fine. It'll still work. It'll take them to the page. It just won't scroll them to the place. So it's not, you never have to worry about, who you're sending it to. Do
Right.
they have the feature on, off, or any of that kind of
right.
stuff?
All right. So I just copied the link and then I disabled it.
Mm-hmm.
So I still have this link, and it
Oh,
still works. I just can't
right.
create the highlights myself. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Excellent. This is a great tip. I've seen this behavior both in Chrome and from Google search results, as well as some people that have it built into their sites as well, but I've never turned it on and created those myself. This is great. Awesome tip, Tyler.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you want to add?
And that's Tyler's tips.
All right. Thanks a lot, Tyler. We'll see you next month.
And bye.
Bye. All right. So that was Tyler's tips. Thanks, Tyler, for doing that. And Andrew, I feel like I got some good digs in there on that one.
Yeah, whenever there's a child involved, you take advantage of it, clearly.
All right. That was good. I didn't know that. I knew that there was that feature. I never knew that you could enable that in Chrome. So very nice. Okay, Andrew, we got another question. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, here we go. Can you see the question?
What hosting provider performs best for craft?
Yep, this came in right before the show from Anonymous. And
wait, hold on. Is Anonymous, is this Nevin? Is it Nevin write this in? Nevin from Architect? I think it was him.
Good question. Probably not it's a good question because you should be knowing are there hosting providers that are optimized for craft? And the answer to that is yes. But I think it's probably good to know to ask the question rather than just to throw it on just any host, because some people can run into problems on certain types of hosts, especially shared hosting. You can have issues. But what would you say to someone that walked up to you, Andrew? They found your house on a country road and walked up your 4-mile driveway, reached the barn, thirsty for water, knocked on the barn door and said, "Excuse me, sir, I need water, but first, what hosting provider performs best for craft?" What would you say?
I would first inform them that we do have a castle law here in New York, so they were in peril for trespassing on my property and harassing me at my place of business. But I would find out a little bit about the website they were hosting, and I would find out a little bit about them and their capabilities and what they wanted the hosting provider to handle or what they wanted to roll their own, that type of thing.
Right.
So it would depend. I think Architect has some great managed hosting. Fort Rabbit has some great managed hosting. Served.host is some fantastic infrastructure and managed hosting. You also could just spin it up yourself with a VPS and set everything up with Ploy or with Forge or whatever your comfort level is for doing this stuff. There are a lot of good choices. I think any of those would be great depending on your skill level. How about you? Or not skill level, that's a terrible way to put it. More what you want to handle versus what you want someone else to handle for you.
Right. When it comes to a lot of things, there's considerations like what is do you have requirements for the project and what is your budget? And that's going to help determine because you're probably, if your requirements are that you need to auto scale this to, 100,000 concurrent users at peak time whenever you do an email blast, but you only have $50 a month, then those are out of whack, right? So, and then you can go from there. And what are your capabilities? Do you want to do some dev opsy stuff, or do you not want to do anything? Do you want to spin up a DigitalOcean droplet and manage it yourself, or do you want to do something with what they have at like Fort Rabbit or what Matt has done at Served, where they kind of manage it a little bit more closely for you? But that would be I would give the person water. I would let them in to your barn, and I would sit them on one of your leather sofas or one of your, I don't know, one of those beanbag things that I don't even want to say the name because I think it's weird. But
they're called love sacks. They're called love sacks.
Sure are.
Yeah. It's not my fault. I didn't name them. That's what they're called, man. They're really comfortable. I'm sorry that you have discomfort knowing that I like to nestle into my love sack, but it's true. It's very comfortable, and the dog loves it too.
Okay. But
in any
do
event,
you actually have, I don't usually ask you for links to articles, but do you have an article on hosting for Craft? I don't even know.
I do. I wrote an article a long time ago
Okay.
on how
Is it still up to
agencies.
date to link to?
Yeah, sure. Because it more is kind of an overview of talking about it. I approach that from the point of view that you should just spin up your own VPS, use something like Forge or Ploy to configure it. But, you know, it depends. You have to look at what you're getting. So, for instance, if you did use served.host, he automatically provides static caching for you if you want it. Like, you just turn it on. He also has an image transform service where he's kind of doing his own imagix in a way. And that's baked in. So, and he has everything scaling up with Kubernetes. So, you know, just look at what you're getting and look at what your comfort level is in terms of managing it yourself versus having someone else do it for you. You know, that's really what it is.
Yep, that makes sense. All right.
So we have a quick question from Fred in the chat that we might as well get to.
Let's do it.
Actually, you know what? You know what? Save this one for when you're going through Craft 3.7 because that's what his question is pertained to.
Okay, let's. We're gonna do Twig globals or global variables, and then we're gonna do Craft 3.7. So Fred will talk about that with the Craft 3.7. All right, Andrew. So recently, I think it was a Monday, Tuesday. I actually don't even know anymore. But if you guys want to go over to the courses section, well, don't do, or in a new tab, don't leave us, of the site. Where is it? Here we go. So I have a course on extending Twig, and I just added a new video this week on creating a Twig global variable. And what I did is I talked about how to do this in a module, like truly like creating your own global variable module if you need something to be globally available throughout your system in all Twig templates. My first example is I just kind of just hard coded one just to kind of show the general setup of in a module of the just the structure of getting it set up. And then on CraftQuest, I created one where I had it call a service in a module that then got like the CraftQuest current user's account type, whether it was like free account or a premium account. So then I could just have that globally available in all the templates. But Andrew, you had told me, you said, you know, there's a way you can do a global variable in air quotes, Twig, a global Twig variable without actually writing any PHP. And it's kind of a little bit of a workaround and taking advantage of the template inheritance in Twig. Is that right?
I find that very condescending, Ryan. It was not in air quotes, first of all. I never used air quotes with it, okay, because it is a fully qualified real global. There's nothing fake about it.
How is it a fully qualified real global, though? If it's not... Okay, go ahead. I'll let you finish. I'm not going to argue.
I'm gonna show you.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna get into it.
Let's do it.
So yeah, I mean, basically, you did this course on how you can set up a module in Twig, and you can introduce global variables. And this is, in fact, the way that Craft works and the way that plugins work when they want to inject any kind of globals or objects or APIs or that type of thing into templates is they do exactly this. So for instance, you're very used to writing craft dot, right? In order to do access a lot of the Craft APIs. Well, that's just a global object.
A global variable,
that they're just stuffing it into the template. And it's a global object that has different methods and that type of thing on it. And there are other ones, there's current user and there are a bunch of other ones. So, you know, this is the way the system works, right? Yep. And I mentioned to you that, hey, you know, that's really cool that you're showing people how to do it with a module, but you don't even need to do that. You can just do that with a Twig, and it's not a workaround. It's not a, what did you call it? Do you call it a hack? Did you call it a hack, Brian?
No, I called it a, no, I didn't call it anything. But anyway. Are you going to show your screen?
Yeah, I'm going to show my screen.
Right.
I'm just looking something up real quick to share it in the chat. There we go. So I wrote an article on an effective Twig-based templating setup that uses this technique, and we can link to that in the show notes if you want. I'm going to switch to my screen share. Now, it was a little dark before. I think I've lightened it some. Let me know how readable this is or isn't. It may not be perfect, but I'm going to, you know, let's just see how we go. And anyone who was there last time, let me know if this is more readable or not, and I will continue to tweak it. It's a struggle, Ryan. It's a struggle. But let's take a look at what we have here. So we have a layout called global variables right here, right?
Yep.
And the interesting thing about Twig inheritance is that you inherit what is called the context whenever you extend something. So if you extend a layout, any variables that were set in the thing you're extending are going to cascade down.
Unless
right?
you specify otherwise, right?
Well, you can do an include only, but you can't do an extends only.
Oh, and that's right. I'm sorry. Yeah, include only.
Yeah.
Yep, you got it.
So, right. So whenever you extend a layout template, it's going to have the whatever variables were set in there are going to be in your context. And your context is just the globals that are available, right? So we can take advantage of this by, you see how I've got this file here called global variables.twig.
Mm-hmm.
This is the root template that everything else extends, okay? And by virtue of it being the first thing that so all of my layout templates extend this, et cetera, because of that, any variables that I set in here will automatically cascade down. So I can do something like set, what was it, current course is what you did?
Yeah.
Equals, why is Ryan nicknamed? I can't even spell. Named Peggy, right? So that's the name of our course.
I've never heard of this nickname before.
So all I'm doing, this is just setting a variable, right? But because this is the template that everything else extends, it's going to be available to every single template that we have. And so this is my little project that I've got going on here. And I'm just loading it up. And so we can take a look at what is going on under the hood. So I'm going to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at these templates to see what is actually going on under the hood. Because we've done this before where we've looked at the compiled templates, but I think it's kind of nice to just pull back the curtain a little bit and take a look at what is actually going on. So let's search. Whenever templates are compiled, they're compiled into the storage runtime compiled templates directory. It's like kind of like a cache. What Twig does is it takes your Twig templates and it compiles them down to PHP so that when it comes time to render them, it just executes the PHP, right? So that's kind of how it works. So I'm doing a search for everything in this directory. I'm searching globally through it because, and here's why I'm doing it. If you've ever seen these folders, it looks like this. You know what I mean? Where you just have like tons of stuff. So it's way easier to have something that you just globally search through the stuff that's down there, right? So we can see here, this random string of text here is the compiled PHP that was generated from that global variables.twig template. And you can see here, like it's basically saying context, $context, just think globals whenever you see $context. Current course equals, why is Ryan nicknamed Peggy, right? And so it's right there. You can see exactly what is going on. Now, to go even further with this, what I want to take a look at is how does this then cascade down into the other templates? Like it's all well and good to say, okay, I see the context is being set here, but how does it then cascade down, right? So we'll search here. Let's search on global variables. Yeah, I can spell. Okay. So this template is the to get parent. This is the template that extends global variables. I think this is the, let's see here. I think this is like this is the base web layout template that I have. So this is the first thing that extends the global variables. And you can see here, it's saying this parent equals load template global variables, right? So it's loading that template in. Mm-hmm. And by virtue of loading that template in, any of the global variables that we set in our global variables.twig are going to be available in every template. So this is a great way that you can have just one place where all of your globals are set and really easy to look them up or change them or whatever. Very similar to what you were doing in PHP, but with no PHP.
Right. Yep. Very nice.
I like.
Wouldn't be a live stream without some Kim's Convenience coming in.
No, that was Borat, man.
Oh, that was Borat.
That was
Sorry.
Borat. How dare you?
So what about Andrew? So as just like to be a little bit of contrarian here, but
Yeah, do it.
wouldn't there
Contrary it
be
up.
limits to this? Like if you had to do some like crazy macro to get the data that you needed just to populate the global variable, maybe that would be more efficiently done if you wanted to or could in a module and then just set that global in PHP.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it like anything else, it depends, right? It depends on who needs access to this thing. Are people that are writing front end code, are they going to want to be able to add, change, reference the globals? There is one nice thing about it, I think, from a transparency point of view.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of tough to see exactly what globals are set. And I was actually thinking about writing something that would help with that would list your context or whatever. But it's if you had to go into like, you told your front end developers, well, if you want to know what globals are available, you have to open, you have to go to modules, source, and all the way drill down to the, it might be a little tricky. Whereas you can just tell them, hey, just open up this global variables.twig, and
Right.
everything is there and everything is set there. But yeah, you're right. I mean, if it's something that there would be a large performance gain by sectioning it off, or it's some, crazy macro. My rule of thumb is if you see nothing but Twig on your screen, then you've written too much Twig. It's time to cut things down a little bit.
Right. So Carbon Joe says, I remember having an issue where a variable defined in a parent template wasn't available in the child template, but maybe I had the variable defined in a block. Yeah, you might have had a scoping issue there for sure.
That's exactly what it is. And that's why we use this template, the root thing that everything else extends, and we set it there. Because if you set it in a block, it's not going to work. If you set it in a file that is included, it's not going to work. I've got another article on my site on Twig templating and scope or something like that, and I invoked Cunningham's law on that one, where originally I had like. The title of the article is Twig Processing Order and Scope. So originally it was called something like Twig. What was the EE terminology for that? Oh yeah, it was like Twig Parsing Order. Yeah. And then Brandon wrote to me, and Brandon was just like, it's not actually doing that. That's not the way. I'm like, okay, yeah, you're right. But anyway, on my site, I've got an article that it has like a nice little infographic that shows what things are set where and how long they persist and all that kind of stuff. But the nice thing is you can just work around this by, if you do have stuff that you want to be truly global, stick it in a global variables.twig and have all of your layout templates extend from that, and then they'll just be available everywhere.
Yep. We got a couple questions here in the chat, Andrew. The first one from Alan is, why this rather than the Craft CP globals? I think Alan means the global sets.
Well, you could put stuff in global sets that does add a database access for everything that you have in there. When you're loading up global sets, understand that those are things that need to be loaded from the database and put in, and you may or may not want that. It also is a case of discoverability. You may want to have stuff that other developers can easily get at, but your content authors maybe can't get at.
Yeah. You can't set you can't do logic and programmatic decisions in the global sets either. So
yeah, you're limited to kind of like what you could put into an entry essentially, in there. But yeah, that's something else that you can do too.
If they need to be globally available and it's something that you want access, content authors to access, then the global sets that's exactly what they're for.
And that's exactly what they do, incidentally, is they do exactly what we just showed here, except that they'll do an element query to bring in those things, or whatever kind of query it ends up being. Don't at me, Brandon. Okay. I know Brandon's here. Brandon's probably gonna be like, it's not. Anyway, but essentially they'll do a database query, and then they'll do exactly what we did here, and they'll set the global context with the global variable sets, and away you go.
Yep. Joe asked a follow up. He said, "What was the nameless thing you had in your global template?"
So it was actually spaceless.
Spaceless.
Yeah, and it's just to trim any white space off of the stuff that's there.
Yep. All right, let's talk about 3.7. If you have other questions about the Twig global variable stuff, feel free to drop that in the chat as well. So on Tuesday, Pixel and Tonic announced a Craft 3.7 beta, and they also gave a bit of a timeline. So I think the beta is, I should pull it up so I actually give correct information.
Nah, just give wrong. Invoke Cunningham's law. Just give wrong information, and someone will correct you.
No.
You're good.
So the beta period is expected to last 4 weeks, and I think that's a newer thing, like just kind of getting some sort of goalpost on what the goal is. That's expected, right? I mean, obviously, if there's issues that need to be addressed, then it would be longer. With the first stable 3.7 release scheduled for July 13th. So we have a mid-July expected release of 3.7, which is exciting. And so 3.7 is now in beta. I have a course that I put together, and you can also, on the Craft site itself, there's instructions as well. I cover some of the new features, also how you can update a site so you can test out the beta. And they did something new this time. If you go to demo.craftcms.com and you just want to see the beta, just put in your email and name and choose the 3.7 beta, and you'll get a temporary instance of the Happy Logger site running the beta. So then it has some content populated. You can kind of click through and see stuff. That's probably the easiest way to get access to the beta, unless you wanted to spin up.
How awesome is that, Ryan?
That's
how
super cool.
Awesome is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I think it's fantastic.
Yep. Yeah. This beta rollout has been really nice. Some really nice write-up and documentation as well on it.
Here's why I think that's fantastic is you might be interested in checking out this, and it's nice because then you don't have to set anything up and you can just spin it up and take a look. But the other thing is, one of the main focuses that you're going to get to when you're demoing this is the draft workflow. Mm-hmm. And I think it's fantastic that we then have something that we could send to a client, and we could say, hey, client, try this out and see what you think, because there's a barrier of entry just for setting up a beta site yourself. Like, it's kind of annoying. You got to pull everything down. You got to set up a test site, got to get it up and running, all that kind of fun stuff. But then you're not even the audience for things like the draft changes, really. I mean, you're going to have to explain it to people at some point. But it's really awesome, I think, that you're able to then get this in the hands of the people that are actually going to be using it and potentially get feedback or just start getting them familiar with it. I think it's awesome.
Yep, I agree. So you can watch the videos that I have. They're free to everyone on the site. You don't even need to have an account. And but I did want to highlight the publishing workflow, because there's been some modifications to it in how drafts, how they appear to the author. So let me pull that up real quick. So side by side here, this is, on the left is 3.6.17, which as of yesterday was the latest. And then on the right here is the beta 1 of 3.7. So the screen that we're seeing here is when you are creating a new entry, not editing an existing. You just create a new entry, and I'm creating an entry in a blog. So you can already see. I
already like the one on the right better because there's one less button. I already like the one on the right better.
There's two less components here, right? We don't have the draft thing here, and we don't have save draft. So I'm not like, I want to like make sure that I'm not speaking incorrectly about this, because I just had a conversation about it. But essentially, behind the scenes, Craft is still saving drafts for you But when you are creating a new entry, it's just not going to be as apparent. So if I'm over on the right side, I'm in the beta, and I just want to write a new blog post. Like
Oh,
this.
look at you. Look at you.
Sorry, I don't actually have any for sale.
Just shameless. Shameless.
And then I'm going to create one over here as well. And so you can see that the result is that it's saving behind the scenes my drafts. This one is as well. It's just that I'm not having to manage anything. I'm not having to save a draft or publish a draft. At this point, the thinking is that if I'm a content author, my goal with a new entry is to just get in and publish it. And if I click save, it actually will set the, I just heard my chat go off. Hang on, let me make sure that I'm not keeping an eye on that. There we go.
Okay. And Ryan, can I just say something real quick?
Yeah.
I don't mind embarrassing myself in public. I will tell you that honestly, when I was using 3.6 with the workflow as it is on the left there, I still am not really sure like which button I want to press. Like, do I want to save this or do I want to? I don't know. And so what I end up doing is I end up hitting. I think I end up hitting save and then I go back and then I hit publish because I'm never really sure exactly what's going on. Like I do them both.
Yeah.
Like I hit save and then I go back. It just looks so much nicer on the right.
Right. And so this is a draft, right? You can see the status here is draft, but it's just Craft is now just handling it behind the scenes and not making you choose. Thinking that the goal is that when you see a red button, you're actually setting something live, whereas here you were saving the draft. And you're not being asked to manage drafts when you first create a post. So I click save and now that one is live. And then if I just save here, click the red button, I have a draft. However, so what I think is even nicer, I'm going to set this one live real quick. I'm going to publish this. And I'm just going to click back in so we're in the same views. So now you can see we're back to, there's some parity here. They're both essentially the same. The difference now is there's been some really nice enhancements on helping people understand what they've edited as well. So if I go in and add some teaser copy here, let's just say I add in some snippets. So you can see on the left here, there's this thin vertical border, this line. And now it's giving you this indicator that you've changed that field. And Craft continues, just like it did before, to manage those drafts. So the way that I look at this is that this is like when you're working with a published entry and you start to make changes, that's when you're having to make decisions about what to do with those changes. Because if I just saved this, I'm now overwriting what's there and changing things. And so I do have the option of creating a draft. There was one other thing that I wanted to highlight about the live preview. That previously, if you were ending the current revision and then going into live preview, a draft would end up getting created for you. And then it would need to be managed. So they did away with this thing where they potentially had hundreds of drafts getting stacked up. So now for 3.7, Craft is automatically creating a draft whenever you start editing, regardless of if you're in live preview or not. So now that I started editing, now there's a draft that's been created for me. And I can discard these now as well. I can create a draft with them, with those changes here. And then I can also apply those changes. And once I apply it, you see that the lines go away. And now we're in our current version of the entry. And I click save and I'm making that live. So is that at all helpful? I feel like that so there's a great graphic that they put together. I'm just going to pull that up real quick. I think it's in the knowledge base. Let's see. Right here. And we'll link to this as well. some nice animations here. And the idea is just showing what it's not the difference between 3.6 and 3.7. It's showing what it's like now. And it's really helpful. And you might look at it and be like, oh, this is really simple. And that's the whole point, is that it is much simpler when you're creating new entries. So check that out and read through that. A really nice
still read
touch.
his name.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to get in a question from the chat. Do you want to do that now, or do you want to finish what you're saying?
Go for it. No, I'm done. I'll just make things more confusing if I keep going.
So Tim Verts, Time Verts. His real name is Tim Everts, but that's never how I read it. It's Time Verts. Here's a question: is there a way in the CP of filtering only by entries that have drafts, right? And so I get where he's going with that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you might be working on a number of things, and you don't know which ones have kind of unpublished changes in there.
Yeah.
And I can see what he's going for, right? Because that would be really useful to be able to know. And we have Brandon here. So Brandon says you can change the status to drafts to see only drafts directly, or you could add a drafts column to the table to see the entries drafts, but there's no way to filter currently. Yeah, there you go.
So I don't have any.
You'll be able to. Yeah,
but if I did, go ahead.
Yeah, so make one. Let's make sure we'll do some QA for Brandon, and we'll send him a billing invoice. Okay, so do it.
All right, so there's one, and yeah, so I can just filter for these.
Yeah, there you go.
And then his other thing was you could add a drafts column to the table to see each of the entries drafts.
Yeah, so you'd have to click on that little gear thing.
Where is it in this?
I think it might not be visible because of the breakpoint. There it is. Yeah. Oh, found another bug, Brandon. That's 50. What's the bug bounty for Craft CMS again? I think it's $1,000 a bug. I think
you're such a troll. All right.
I know.
Oh, drafts. Here we go.
Yeah.
So what should that show then?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe we found another one.
Let's see.
Draft status filter also shows drafts of live entries, Brandon says. But I would think the drafts column would show.
So I don't have any. That's the problem. I didn't have.
I see.
Yep.
Oh, you didn't have a live entry with a draft.
With
you
a
had
draft.
Just a draft on its own.
Oh, this is actually.
Yeah, okay.
I didn't know this. This is actually really nice. So like I think it's so for people that have like a large amount of content authors working on a site where they're publishing a lot of content. That's kind of what's driving a lot of the simplification and even some of the publishing workflows is because there are people that need to set up complex workflows and make sure it's as straightforward as possible. But this is actually really nice. I didn't even know that.
Do you think that column should be visible by default with the changes to the draft system, the drafts column?
I think that could be confusing, honestly, because I don't know.
I think it'd be helpful. I think it kind of gives insight into exactly what's going on, you know?
I mean, maybe the expiry date could be gone and included drafts, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, the more right? Maybe the lesson from like having these buttons everywhere is that the more you show it, it can make it more confusing because they're still doing all of the draft creation behind the scenes. It's just not surfacing it to you until you need it.
I think there's a difference between showing information and giving options to people, though. I think it's the number of things that I can do that ends up getting confusing versus status information that I can or cannot take into account. But I get what you're saying. Everything's a balance. I get it. I get it.
All right. So I'll put a link. Did someone drop a link to that article? I want to make sure I'll put one in the chat real quick for everyone. This is great. I know Matt Stein did a lot of work on these animations, so check it out. And this is a good place to start and just kind of reset your expectations for how the entry publishing workflow works. And that way, if you have to communicate that to clients or to customers, you can do that as well. All right.
Matt did an amazing job on those. It's almost like he's got a little bit of marketing person in him. He did a really good job with it.
Don't say that.
Why?
All right, Andrew. Anything else? I want to show so many features in Craft 3.7, but Is there something that you want to highlight that you're excited about? Are you excited about pushing featured changes from SEOmatic into the gift box?
Yeah, so they did add a little gift box, which is a way of letting all content authors know that there are new changes or things that they can look at, and they're keeping it kind of simple so that it's just going to list what they are, and you click on it and it will take you to a page or whatever that will go into it in depth. But I think that's kind of nice to let people know what's changed and what's new and what they might want to take advantage of. It's like a lot of software has, where whenever they issue an update, even Discord, any number of things, they'll say, hey, there's a bunch of new stuff. Do you want to check it out?
And plugin developers have access to this as well. You do it through migration. That way it just happens once.
Don't tell anyone about it. We don't want it to turn into marketing spam. No, I'm sure it'll be fine, because you can't, it's just a textual list of stuff. But don't turn it, if you're a plugin developer, do not turn this into your release notes channel, okay? You should not put all of your release notes in this thing. It's only for like major new features that you might potentially be showing.
Yep, and I was looking, I don't think it's available to all CP users. I actually was checking in the code, and I think that's right. So you can't limit it to only to be admins or something like that. So it needs to be appropriate. But maybe that'll be refined.
Well, the feature you didn't show that I had a lot of fun with was the fact that it's got those little slide outs for editing embedded stuff. Yeah. Do you want to show that, or do you want me to show it?
Why don't you show it, because you might have better content set up than I do for that. Go ahead.
I mean, that's arguable, but so first we'll show the content of me not being able to type admin without it. All right. So this is the actual live dev mode site. So we're gonna go in here real quick, and these are real simple. So here's our episode setup. So there's our summer book burning, and I added this little field here, related episodes, that's currently not populated. So this is just a element chooser, right? So let's say we'll say it's related to this one, and then the fun thing is you can double click on this, and look, you get an editor for that episode nested up there.
So it's a new slide out UI.
Well, what you used to do is you open two windows, right? And you go back and forth, and it was really kind of clunky, but the turtles go real deep, so you can do, that's the wrong one. I want to do another related episode, and we'll go this one, and then you can just keep stacking, right? So you can just keep on going deeper and deeper and deeper. And it's kind of nice because it doesn't take you out of the flow. And this is related to the question that was asked earlier. Do you want to read that out, or?
Which question was that?
My goodness. Now you're going to I was trying to make you find it.
Oh. Did that
it's the one that, it's Fred's question. Fred's question.
I put a pin in it for him. Yeah, hang
on. Could be the new related entry view as a replacement for a matrix super table or even Neo replacement. It depends, right? I mean, it depends on what your information architecture looks like, but it certainly in some cases could be. It's just a nice way of, you could, instead of having like nested matrix blocks like you might have had before, it becomes a little bit more viable to have separate channels for these things. And then this is an easy way that people can just kind of dig down through and pick and find the right thing, Yep.
Excellent.
But that's there's another feature in there that I think is pretty cool, is that, and it's just a little cache tag issue, but it used to be that if you put the cache tag around JavaScript or CSS or some other things, that what would end up happening is it would just disappear because it wouldn't render anything. So you would never want to do that. Now it will save it separately, and it will make sure that it is always included, which is kind of nice. You'll find that on I'm sure you'll link to it, but on the release notes page for the beta version, that one's in there. But a bunch of nice little quality of life improvements, I think.
Yeah, so check out the beta. The safest way, if you don't want to even mess with anything yourself, is to spin up a demo on demo.craftcms.com. Otherwise, what I like to do is, I have a lot of test projects, but you can also just install Craft locally and just go into your composer file and change the version to 3.7.0-beta.1 and run a composer install. or yeah, and then it'll update to the latest craft, and then run the migrations or refresh the control panel to run them, and you'll be able to play around. Just don't run it
That's
on
what I
production.
did.
Yep.
Well, hey, well,
No,
now,
don't do
now,
what
now,
Andrew
now
did.
that,
Don't run it on production.
now that you say that, now
No.
that you say that, I test in production, and so do you. As Charity Major says, I love that expression because it's true. No matter how much you think you don't, you do. So what I did, exactly what you're talking about, I spun up my Docker container with dev mode running in it, and I updated it to the beta, and everything. I'm like, oh, everything seems to work. You know, I kicked the tires. I went through it, Ryan. I was not irresponsible, and then I was just like YOLO, and I shipped it to production. So the dev mode site that we were just on, and I was showing you those features, that's not in local dev. That's actually the live production site out there. So I'm not suggesting that you should necessarily do that for your client sites, but you can at least, as Ryan said, get it up and running in local dev.
Yep, absolutely. All right, Andrew. I feel like we packed a lot into an hour and 15 minutes, so that was good. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. Andrew, thanks for hanging out and for letting us, I guess, virtually hang out with Tyler again this time. So super fun.
Well, summer's coming, so Tyler will be live.
Oh, he'll be live again. All right. Every other show you'll see him. So once a month, we'll have him on for a tip, and maybe there'll be a Mac tip or something soon. How not to get banned from your computer.
If he gets unbanned, I think it's hilarious that Joe was doing free Tyler. If he sees that, he's gonna love it.
Yeah,
free Tyler. Like, he's gonna be like this. He's gonna be like, free Tyler, free Tyler.
So as always, we're live the first and third Thursday of the month. So we'll be back on the first Thursday of July. And if you want to check out more of what Andrew and I put out, you can check out nystudio107.com for Andrew's articles. We'll link a bunch of stuff in here. CraftQuest.io. Check out that site as well. Hopefully that's where you're watching this if you're not watching on YouTube. And if you don't have an account, you can sign up for a free account to get access to some content. And then a premium account gives you access to everything. So CraftQuest is what I do. So always appreciate the support and people checking out the training material. Andrew, thanks a lot for joining me again.
Thanks for having me, Ryan. And submit questions, everyone. If you got questions, submit them.
Yep, submit us questions. All right. Thanks, everyone. See you next time.
Bye-bye.